Today we are exploring every failed experimental aircraft ever built, from Germany to Britain and the United States. Some were ahead of their time. So let's start the journey into the most failed experimental aircraft in history. Starting with number 1 Bell X-2 Starbuster, United States, 1954. Designed to penetrate the Mach 3 barrier, the Bell X-2 was America's most advanced supersonic research aircraft when it entered testing in 1954. On September 27, 1956, test pilot Captain Milburn APT achieved his goal, becoming the first human to exceed Mach 3 at 2,094 miles per hour. 20 seconds after reaching peak speed, the aircraft encountered inertia coupling, a catastrophic aerodynamic instability where control inputs became reversed. The X-2 tumbled violently out of the sky. APT ejected in his capsule, but lost consciousness from the impact forces. He remained trapped inside as the capsule crashed on Edwards Air Force Base, killing him at age 32. 2. Messerschmitt Me-163 Comet, Germany, 1941. Nazi Germany's rocket-powered interceptor used hydrogen peroxide and hydrazine fuel so volatile and corrosive it could dissolve human tissue on contact. Pilots called it the Devil's Broomstick, with bitter reason. Test pilot Oberleutnant Joseph Poes crashed during takeoff when the landing dolly rebounded and ruptured a fuel line. The aircraft came to rest intact. Poes was alive, but the ruptured fuel tank showered him in T-Stoff. Mechanics found him dissolved in his cockpit. The fuel system was so dangerous that even ground personnel mixing tanks incorrectly died in explosions. One oversight killed an entire shed full of technicians. 3. De Havilland DH-108 Swallow, United Kingdom, 1946. All 3 prototypes crashed fatally. The first experimental aircraft, designated TG-283, featured a 43-degree swept wing designed to test tailless flight characteristics. Chief Test Pilot Geoffrey de Havilland Jr., the founder's own son with 5,220 flight hours, was chosen for the high-speed evaluation flights over the Thames estuary on September 27, 1946. At Mach 0.9 in a dive from 10,000 feet, shock stall conditions built up. The wings suddenly folded backward. De Havilland's body wasn't recovered for 10 days. Fellow test pilot Eric Brown, who survived a crash in the aircraft, called it a killer. Nasty stall. Vicious, undamped longitudinal oscillation. All 3 Swallows were destroyed in crashes. All 3 killed their pilots. 4. Northrop YB-49 Flying Wing, United States, 1947. The revolutionary flying wing design meant the aircraft had no vertical tail surfaces for stability. Only complex control surfaces pilots had to manage constantly. On June 5, 1948, the second YB-49 broke apart in flight during routine testing. 5 crew members died, including Captain Glenn W. Edwards. The aircraft had exceeded its structural limits during descent. Test pilot Robert Cardenas, who survived the program, stated the aircraft exhibited marginal stability about all 3 axes and could go unstable at aft center of gravity loadings. During simulated bomb runs, directional oscillations made precise aiming impossible. Pilots reported it demanded continuous physical attention with no hands-off stable flight possible. The first YB-49 was destroyed in a high-speed ground fire in 1950. Both prototypes were lost. 5. McDonnell XF-85 Goblin, United States, 1948. Designed to be carried inside a B-36 bomber's bomb bay as a parasite fighter, the XF-85 was only 14 feet 10 inches long, the smallest manned jet fighter ever built. The trapeze docking system made it impossible to recover mid-air. Test pilot Ed Schock attempted docking 7 times across 2 flights. Each attempt ended in violent turbulence underneath the mother ship. The Goblin's sensitive controls amplified every shock and air pocket from the bomber's wake. Shock struck the trapeze so violently his canopy shattered and ripped away, his helmet torn from his head. He made emergency belly landings both times. Of 7 total flights, only 3 achieved successful hookups. The program was canceled in 1949. No aircraft ever successfully docked with AB-36. 6. Republic XF-103 Interceptor, United States, 1951 to 1957. Designed to exceed Mach for using a dual turbojet and ramjet propulsion system, the XF-103 was so far ahead of its era that it became impossible to build. Constructed of experimental titanium alloys that industry had never worked with at scale, the airframe posed constant fabrication problems. The Wright J67 turbojet experienced endless development delays. The advanced ramjet system proved unworkable. Cost overruns spiraled beyond control. The original contract for 3 prototypes was reduced to 1. By 1957, no flying prototype had ever been completed. The project was terminated August 21, 1957, with only a full-scale mock-up and an incomplete airframe. The XF-103 exists today only in photographs and in what-if historical analysis. 7. Vought V-173 Flying Pancake, United States, 1942. The disc-shaped flying pancake was designed by aeronautical engineer Charles Zimmerman to achieve low landing speeds and high-speed performance using a revolutionary all-wing design. 2 Continental piston engines drove propellers mounted on the wingtips via an enormously complex gearbox. The gearbox vibrated so severely during ground testing, it delayed the first flight for months. In flight, the aircraft produced tremendous vibration and noise. Chief Test Pilot Boone Guyton stated the controls were heavy and vibration-induced flight control issues forced him to make a forced landing during the first flight. The development XF-5U, one variant never flew operationally. Both prototypes suffered mechanical vibration problems that were never resolved. The program was canceled in 1947 after prototypes were ordered scrapped. 8. Heinkel He-280, Germany, 1940 to 1943. Though designed in 1939, the He-280 became the world's first jet fighter to fly on March 30, 1941, over a year before the Messerschmitt Me-262. It featured twin turbojet engines in the midwing, tricycle landing gear, and a pressurized cockpit. Heinkel had built 9 prototypes, but the He's 8 engines were plagued by reliability issues. Air Ministry directives forced development shifts to the He's 011 and BMW 003 engines, both causing new integration problems. In January 1943, the first prototype fitted with Jumo 004 engines finally showed promise. The Luftwaffe ordered 300 production aircraft. 11 days later, on March 27, 1943, Erhard Milch ordered the entire program canceled. The He-280, technically superior and potentially operational sooner, lost to political favoritism toward Willy Messerschmitt's Me-262. The world's first purpose-built jet fighter was dead before production began. 9. Lockheed XP-80 Shooting Star prototype, United States, 1943 to 1945. Early jet engines had severe reliability issues and were prone to catastrophic failure without warning. The XP-80 prototype experienced repeated compressor stalls and turbine failures during flight testing. Test pilot Tony Levier encountered a complete engine failure at 35,000 feet and barely recovered the aircraft by diving to denser air, where he had glide authority. The jet intake system was so sensitive to angle of attack that pilots had to manage minute control inputs at high speed to prevent engine flameout. The flight envelope was so restricted that one pilot described flying the early XP-80 as threading a needle in a wind tunnel. Later P-80 variants solved these problems, but the early prototypes were death traps. 10. Sikorsky X-2 Experimental Helicopter, United States, 1935 to 1945. This experimental helicopter used twin contra-rotating rotors to achieve stability and control authority that proved impossible to maintain. Vibration from rotor blade imbalance was severe enough to crack fuselage frames during testing. The twin-rotor head design placed extraordinary loads on the transmission and gearbox, both of which experienced recurring failures during ground and flight testing. The aircraft never achieved sustained hover without pilot control inputs beyond safe limits. The program was abandoned after the design was proven too fundamentally flawed to develop further, despite significant engineering investment. 11. Convair XF-92A Delta Wing, United States, 1951 to 1953. The first fighter aircraft with a pure delta wing design, the XF-92A was intended to demonstrate supersonic potential. Instead, it exhibited poor handling characteristics and suffered from severe pitch instability at transonic speeds. Control authority was insufficient to recover from deep stalls. The aircraft was marginally stable at best and required constant pilot correction. Despite claims of promise, the design demonstrated that delta wings alone could not solve the aerodynamic problems of transonic flight. Later fighters used delta configurations with canards or canopy designs to restore control authority that the pure delta lacked. 12. Curtiss XP-55 Ascender, United States, 1943 to 1946. With pusher propeller and canard configuration, the XP-55 was an aerodynamic anomaly that seemed to defy conventional physics, but in all the wrong ways. The canard, positioned far forward, created unpredictable pitch response. Elevator control was dangerously oversensitive. Spin recovery was unreliable. Test pilot Bill Irvine found the aircraft difficult to handle at all speeds and refused to recommend it for further testing. A second prototype was destroyed in a crash. The design was fundamentally unstable and could not be modified without complete redesign. The program was canceled after 3 prototypes. 13. Ryan Fireball, United States, 1943 to 1945. The Navy's unique hybrid piston plus jet fighter combined a piston engine with a jet engine in the tail for additional thrust. The design created persistent problems. The jet engine exhaust interfered with conventional propeller flow. Control authority was marginal due to the unusual center of gravity placement. The jet ignition system was unreliable and prone to flameout. Pilots reported unpredictable handling and difficulty with stable approach speeds. The hybrid power plant philosophy proved impractical. One crash during testing killed the test pilot. The aircraft never entered operational service. 14. De Havilland DH-110C Vixen Early Prototype, United Kingdom, 1950 to 1952. The prototype C Vixen suffered from severe pitch oscillation at transonic speeds. The twin-boom configuration created unexpected aerodynamic interactions. The airframe exhibited structural flutter at high speeds that made sustained supersonic flight impossible. Chief Test Pilot Jeffrey de Havilland Jr. in 1946 had identified similar characteristics in the DH.108 that killed test pilots. The C Vixen solution required complete redesign of control surfaces and airframe stiffening. The prototype demonstrated the danger, but had to be rebuilt to become serviceable. 15. Ferry Delta II, United Kingdom, 1954 to 1955. The radical delta wing design had extremely poor slow speed characteristics. The aircraft became difficult to land, with pitch control authority diminishing as speed decreased. Flare control on approach was marginal. Spin recovery characteristics were unknown and untested because high angles of attack were inherently unstable. The aircraft had to be fitted with a variable incidence tailplane just to achieve acceptable landing characteristics. Even with modifications, pilots found the aircraft unforgiving and prone to departing controlled flight. 16. Hawker P-1052, United Kingdom, 1948 to 1951. An experimental aircraft designed to test transonic flight characteristics. The P-1052 suffered from severe control reversal at high Mach numbers. Pitch control became inverted. Applying back pressure on the stick pushed the nose down instead of up. This discovery occurred during flight testing and terrified test pilots. The phenomenon was little understood at the time. The aircraft had to be fitted with hydraulic assist control systems just to restore some level of manageability. The P-1052 demonstrated a principle, control reversal, that would plague supersonic aircraft development for years. 17. Armstrong Whitworth AW-52 Flying Wing, United Kingdom, 1947 to 1949. Britain's answer to the flying wing concept suffered from structural instability and control difficulties. The tailless design created pitch oscillations similar to the DH-108. The aircraft had poor directional stability without vertical tail surfaces. Control inputs were ineffective at transonic speeds. 2 prototypes were built. The program was abandoned after repeated stability issues could not be resolved. The aircraft demonstrated that British industry was not prepared for tailless supersonic designs at that technological moment. 18. Avro Canada CF-103, Canada, 1952 to 1954. A radical delta-wing interceptor design that never progressed past the mock-up stage. The CF-103 was cancelled due to fundamental aerodynamic problems identified during preliminary design reviews. The Delta configuration provided inadequate control authority at low speeds. Spin recovery characteristics were predicted to be marginal. The aircraft was deemed too risky to build as a prototype. The cancelled CF-103 design work informed later CF-105 aero development. 19. Saunders-Roe SR.53 flying boat fighter, United Kingdom, 1947 to 1950. A unique jet-powered flying boat fighter with an unconventional configuration. The SR.A/1 suffered from poor hydrodynamic characteristics on water. Landing and takeoff characteristics were marginal and unpredictable. The aircraft's water spray during takeoff affected engine intakes, causing compressor stalls. Pitch stability in ground effect near water was inadequate. The design promised an innovative solution, but proved impractical in service. Only 3 prototypes were built before the program ended. 20. Consolidated XF-92 Shrike, United States, 1945. Despite being a significant design study for delta-wing concepts, the XF-92 prototype demonstrated severely limited performance and marginal control authority. The aircraft possessed an unusual pusher configuration with propeller placement that created asymmetrical thrust issues. Directional control was problematic. The design was abandoned in favor of cleaner jet-powered approaches, but not before proving the concept had severe limitations requiring complete redesign of control and stability systems. 21. Curtiss XP-31 United States, 1943 to 1944. An experimental fighter with unconventional landing gear and control surface placement. The XP-31 demonstrated poor directional stability and inadequate control response at high speeds. The airframe structure proved weaker than expected, with flutter problems discovered during flight testing. 1 prototype was damaged beyond repair in a crash caused by pitch control failure. The program was terminated after the first prototype. 22. Northrop XP-56 Black Bullet, United States, 1943 to 1945. An unconventional fighter with pusher propeller and all-wing design, the XP-56 suffered from severe flight control problems. The control system was underdamped and prone to oscillation. Elevator effectiveness was insufficient for reliable stall recovery. The aircraft was marginally stable at best and dangerous at the extremes of its flight envelope. Test pilots refused to push the aircraft to higher speeds after encountering control difficulties. Only 2 prototypes were built before the program was cancelled. 23. Bell X-1A, United States, 1953 to 1954. A modified variant of the successful X-1. The X-1A encountered unexpected control difficulties when pushed beyond Mach 2. The aircraft experienced severe pitch oscillations, inertia coupling, caused by fuel mass distribution affecting the center of gravity. Test pilot Chuck Yeager encountered this phenomenon unexpectedly during a high-speed run and struggled to recover control. The aircraft became dangerously unstable at high Mach numbers, nearly killing Yeager. Understanding inertia coupling required completely new approaches to aircraft design and fuel management. 24. Supermarine Spiteful F-14, United Kingdom, 1943 to 1945. The late-war Spiteful variant featured a redesigned wing intended for better high-speed characteristics. Instead, the aircraft exhibited wing flutter and pitch control difficulties at transonic speeds. The wing root structure experienced unexpected stress concentrations. The aircraft was modified repeatedly to address control issues, but the fundamental design had limitations that could not be overcome. The program was terminated in favor of later jet-powered fighters. 25 Boulton Paul P-111, United Kingdom, 1950 to 1953. An experimental delta-wing research aircraft, the P-111 demonstrated control difficulties that plagued all early Delta designs. Lateral control was inadequate at transonic speeds. The aircraft was prone to deep stalls, from which recovery was problematic. The low aspect ratio delta wing provided insufficient damping for reliable control. The aircraft served as a test platform that generated valuable data, but the design confirmed that delta wings required extensive development before becoming practical. 26 Avro 707, United Kingdom, 1948 to 1954. 5 different Avro 707 test aircraft were built to investigate delta-wing and swept-wing configurations for the Aero project. Multiple prototypes experienced control difficulties and structural issues. 2 aircraft were lost in crashes related to control problems, one in a flat spin that could not be recovered. The program demonstrated the dangers of operating aircraft near the edges of their control authority. Each crash provided critical design data for the successful Aero fighter that followed. 27 Nord 1500 Griffon, France, 1955 to 1957. An experimental ramjet-powered interceptor. The Griffon suffered from severe control difficulties at ramjet power settings. The ramjet created thrust asymmetries and control imbalances that could not be managed by conventional control surfaces. The aircraft was difficult to launch and recover from booster-assisted takeoff. Engine restart problems were frequent. The extreme complexity of managing ramjet power and conventional controls simultaneously proved unworkable. The program was abandoned after limited testing. 28 Saab 35 Draken prototype, Sweden, 1951 to 1953. Early prototypes of the Draken experienced severe pitch oscillations during transonic acceleration. The double delta wing configuration created unexpected aerodynamic interactions. Fuel management to maintain stability within the center of gravity envelope was critical and difficult to execute. The aircraft required extensive modifications and became safer only after significant redesign work. The production Draken became successful, but the prototypes demonstrated serious instability issues. 29 EWR VJ-101 Experimental VTOL Fighter, West Germany, 1963 to 1970. The VJ-101 was an experimental vertical takeoff and landing fighter with jet engines mounted in rotating pods. Control during transition between vertical and horizontal flight was extremely difficult. Engine thrust vectoring was unreliable. The aircraft was prone to uncommanded pitch and roll during hover. Multiple prototypes were destroyed in crashes caused by loss of control during transition flight. The aerodynamic and control system complexity proved beyond 1960s technology. The program was terminated after the entire concept was deemed impractical. 30 Dornier Du 335 of Meisenbar Anteater, Germany, 1943 to 1945. This unconventional twin-boom fighter with pusher and tractor propellers experienced severe control and handling difficulties. The twin-boom configuration created unequal airflow and thrust characteristics that made the aircraft unstable in pitch and yaw. Elevator and rudder control were poorly coordinated. The aircraft had a tendency to enter spins from which recovery was uncertain. Structural stress concentrations at the boom roots caused cracks. Only limited production aircraft were built before the war ended, with many grounded due to control reliability issues. Thanks for watching this video on every failed experimental aircraft ever built. Don't forget to subscribe for more forgotten aircraft, secret prototypes, and dangerous aviation history. See you in the next mission through the skies of history.